Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chief Science Officer Zoom In on Science calls, where we learn about STEM professionals and their careers to understand the impact of their job in modern life. My name is CSO Haley, and I'm from Oregon. Today, we welcome Shawn from the National Inventors Hall of Fame to Zoom In on Science, specifically Camp Invention. Shawn, can you tell our participants a little bit about yourself and your work?
Sure, absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Shawn, and as Haley just said, I am with the National Inventors Hall of Fame. And if you've never heard of us, I'll give you a little bit of an overview in just a bit. But I have been with the National Inventors Hall of Fame for over 21 years. And my role with the organization is to support and partner with school districts around in a certain region of the United States, but I also work on a national level with organizations like yours to just share what we do and mostly provide opportunities for students. So I'm just going to let this play for a minute. So I'm going to stop right there because I think you can all agree from what you've seen, that's exactly what you're doing as Chief Science Officers, is inspiring young minds to create and innovate and engage in the kinds of opportunities that you all enjoy experiencing. So here's a little bit about the National Inventors Hall of Fame. So we have been in existence since 1973, and we literally were a hallway in the United States Patent and Trademark offices. They used to, and some of you have visited, I believe you've visited our museum, but we used to be in a museum in a hallway, well, actually a hallway space when they were in Arlington, Virginia. So about 15 years ago, they moved to this new campus, maybe 12 years. And so now, those of you who were able to see the museum, that happens to be ours. So we manage the museum, we change out the exhibits, everything that you see there is created and developed and implemented through us. So because of our relationship with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, we have to honor inventors. So we have an inductee or an induction ceremony every May. And unfortunately, due to the global crisis, we had to cancel this year. But that's okay because we're still honoring them in different ways. If you go to our website, we'll send out an email after this, or I will, and it'll have some links to like some searchable databases and some videos on YouTube that you can see information about those inductees. But because of having inductees, that means that we are honoring inventors and invention. We're also promoting creativity. So that's what we do through our educational programs and our collegiate inventors competition. And that also is part of our mission with advancing the spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship. So that was since 1973, that's our mission. But since 1990, for over 30 years, we've been partnering with school districts and educators to really implement and facilitate one of the longest running STEM and invention education experiences that you can find. And I'll have to tell you, if anyone follows country music and you say I was country before country was cool, we were STEM. I see Kelly shaking her head. She's probably the only one that recognizes that analogy, but we were STEM before STEM was cool. STEM wasn't even an acronym when we started doing programs. So there's my contact information. Invent.org is our website. And of course, I'll send that. How many, I just want to know by a show of hands, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, but how many are familiar with the concept of intellectual property literacy? Yeah, no? So intellectual property is a lot of what we educate, expose our attendees to. So that's what the United States Patent and Trademark Office does. They take care of intellectual property rights. So that is the right to own your own idea, the right to make money on your idea. It's where trademarks are established. So you can do all kinds of fun searching on uspto.gov as well. So just want to throw that out there as some concepts to keep in mind as our relationship grows with you all. And, you know, we don't have enough time to get into it all now, but trust me, we'll have a lot more interaction going forward. So the reason that you all were so an organization and a group of kids that were really interested us in getting to know is because you are the students who we look for to be kind of our camp counselors during our summer day camps when we have in-person 1-week summer day camps across the country. And you may have seen information about this before. I know I've shared with Kelly and Jeremy, and I'm not sure if you address them by their first names, but that's what I do. So they've known about the leadership intern position. And again, we'll share out more information about that. But it's a really neat opportunity for rising 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students to, first of all, you get 40 service hours, but more importantly, you really get an opportunity to mentor younger students. You're assigned a group of kiddos during the week, and it's a really neat bonding, collaborative, fun, engaging. It will make you tired, but you'll really learn some really valuable lessons and skills that will carry you a lifetime, actually. There are camp inventions, like I said, across the country, but we do have a lot of areas where we don't have camp inventions, but we also have after school programs and we have middle school programs. So that's kind of where we're going to start conversations, as well as how can you all put our programs in your toolkit and maybe integrate implementing some of those in your action plans for maybe the upcoming school year and summer 2021. We're for sure not talking about this summer. You could be a leadership intern in an existing program, but we're not looking to start anything new with you all this summer. That would be too much of a heavy lift. I saw some things some questions in the chat, and I know Haley, I'll just keep going. Okay. So just so you know what happens during Camp Invention, we really focus on invention education and STEM learning. It's all hands-on inquiry based. There's no screens, so students do not need laptops or iPhones. We discourage those. The only screens you would see during this time is when an instructor, an educator is presenting a video or some background music or images to really set that immersive environment. And we really do create themed experiences. And our students, our participants, they're really encouraged to be risk takers. We are encouraging them to solve problems on their own. So our educators, I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but our educators in our programs are guides on the sides, not sages on the stage. So they're not talking to you and like just lecturing. It's all hands-on. There's a lot of energy. And I want to talk about this becoming more empathetic. So when you think about empathy, you think about maybe looking at someone who has a challenge or a disability and you're being empathetic to their needs. Well, there's also the notion that being empathetic in the invention world and when you're innovating is being empathetic to how that end product is going to be used by the end user. So you're putting yourself kind of in the space of how that would be used while you're designing and developing it. So that becoming more empathetic is really critical to solving problems and creating and innovating. I mentioned earlier about intellectual property literacy. So your ideas having value, which then help to grow and present opportunities for being an entrepreneur in your own right. And that's not just being an entrepreneur in selling products, it's also being an entrepreneur in anything you do. So I work for the National Inventors Hall of Fame, but I have my own job and I am encouraged to be an entrepreneur and come up with new ways of doing things and new ideas and presenting those to my team. And then we all kind of go out and see how those ideas work. So it's not just being an entrepreneur in selling. So I just want to make that clarification as well. So it is 7 o'clock my time if any of you are on the East Coast, and I will let you know that I have been talking all day. So if I'm talking really fast, it's because I'm playing catch up. And it's been a great, crazy, hectic day, but I would love to just kind of stop there and turn it back over to Haley and hopefully answer some really fun questions for you.
Thank you so much, Shawn. That was really incredible to hear about some of the opportunities that you're providing students through Camp Invention. I know that I personally am a very hands-on and visual learner, so I think that Camp Invention would be a really great opportunity for students to learn in an engaging environment. So I'm going to start with a question that I had personally about your pathway to working at Camp Invention. So most students wouldn't think in elementary school, oh wow, I really want to go and work for the National Inventors Hall of Fame. It seems like a very kind of interesting and specific job. So what was your pathway that led you to working for the National Inventors Hall of Fame?
Oh my goodness. So I have a degree in education and elementary education. And I will tell you that I was a non-traditional college student. So it took me a little while to get my degree, but I did get my degree. And an opportunity presented itself to come on board and work with developing Camp Invention, working on curriculum, and really being on the kind of ground level of really taking it on a national scale. So I really thought I was going to be in the classroom and thought this was just kind of going to be a short-term kind of stepping stone, and it ended up being 21 plus years. And I think the biggest, it's not an incredible story. I don't think it's a very inspiring story, but it does, what it kind of has shown me is that when an opportunity presents itself, you have to have enough clarity and, seek some guidance and ask people what they think, because an opportunity is only an opportunity if you take advantage of it, right? So you really need to learn how to recognize what an opportunity is in front of you.
That's really cool. How I've heard a lot from a lot of different professionals that their path isn't always straight. So it's always interesting to hear how different professionals make it to different careers and what paths they've taken. Yeah. We have a question from CSO Lauren, and she asked, what do you think CSOs can implement on their campuses to further innovation education?
So so for you all to take the lead in something, and something that would be easily accessible to you, I would suggest starting and you know, I know you're all in different places and different, speaking to a large group, not knowing your individual settings and what you're already doing. But I love the idea of being able to maybe even look at the National Inventors Hall of Fame, our blog. We have over 60 activities that are using everyday objects, and maybe pulling a smaller group of kids together to start an after-school club and put some framework around that, maybe find a mentor at the elementary school. And then if that's something that seems to be going well and there's a lot of interest, you can more formally implement one of our club invention programs. So I think it's just really, you know, talking to your elementary principals and, you know, sharing what you're hoping to do and mentoring the younger students. And I hope that I hope that's helpful, and maybe you can give me a little guidance on how you're doing some things already and how I can leverage that for you maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of CSOs would be very interested in incorporating Camp Invention and things like that into their action plan. So that would be a great idea for some starting CSOs and returning CSOs. We have a question from CSO Tyra. As you have gone through your career, what is a strategy you use to fulfill your job to the fullest?
I plan. I am a planner, and I am always taking notes, and I will show you. This is it's called Rocketbook. And if any of you need something to ask for a birthday present or a special occasion, if you've never heard of this, it's actually, you can write your notes and you can then erase them. But before you do that, you can scan them and then it uploads it into the system, and you can put different files and things into a folder. So I'm very organized. I try to stay very organized, and I communicate. So I would say that communicating and over communicating what you want to do, hope to do, and like I said, having that entrepreneurial spirit, not being afraid to be a risk taker. So as we're encouraging children to be risk takers, we're hoping that carries through. So there's some different elements to what we think makes a great innovator. And one of them is being a disruptor. And I would say that somebody might call me a disruptor in my world, because I'm always trying to push the envelope a little bit. So I would say, don't be afraid to be a risk taker, plan and stay organized, and communicate.
I think that organization for sure is a really great tool to help everybody stay organized. We have a question from CSO Gowrie. And that question is, what advice would you give to a CSO to achieve his or her dreams in the future?
Explore. Look for things that you may challenge yourself, but you may find that that's something that you would enjoy doing. So be open to pushing yourself outside your comfort zone a little bit.
Perfect. All right, we have a question from CSO Vivikraj. How will the camps be assessed and the process be tracked?
Say that one more time.
How will the camps be assessed and the process be tracked?
So as far as assessment through the school district, is that what you're thinking?
Maybe for Camp Invention, right? So how do they know they were successful at Camp Invention, or what's the end, right? So some students think of assessment, right? Of there has to be some sort of product at the end. Maybe there's a rubric, or do they actually have to invent anything? What's the process of the camp? So that when they're talking about the experience, that they are either becoming a leadership mentor or participating. Sorry guys, you're all too old. It's 3rd through 5th grade, I believe, right?
It's Rising K6.
Okay. But yeah, so what's the end goal, right? Are they supposed to achieve an invention? Is there an evaluation? Is there a presentation at the end?
So each Camp Invention has 4 modules, and with it being a week long, the students rotate through each day within a module, and it's new every summer. So I would say the assessment is a little more focused than maybe what would be a general answer that you're looking for. So in one module, the students, I'm trying to think of one for this year. They are, in one of the modules is called Rescue Squad, and the students, the elementary students, are challenged to come up with a new habitat for an endangered species. So to help that endangered species survive, so the assessment there to see if it's successful is to see that that student has created, you know, that habitat. Now they may be working in groups, and you have to understand that I would say that to assess that Camp Invention is successful is a no-brainer. Every child, I would say, okay, maybe not every, but 95% of participants who go to Camp Invention will tell you that they have thoroughly enjoyed their experience. They've met new friends. They've discovered new things that they like. And so I think the assessment has to be looked at not as standardized as what you would think, but it's more about the outcome of it being a summer enrichment. It's been fun, but the students have learned a lot while having fun. And I know that's a very open-ended answer, but it's a little more complicated actually than that.
So I want to just voice in. No, that's great, because it's kind of what we're teaching you as CSOs, right? Failure is okay. You don't have to have the perfect product at the end, but it's the path, it's the journey that you experience of planning a project, it not going well or going amazing, the people you meet along the way, the connections you're making, and the impact that the project had on others. So Camp Invention, which is why I wanted to introduce you to Shawn, is a very similar atmosphere for students to engage in exploration of STEM and create, design, and build and become inventors with less structure that you would find. And you have to create a solar oven using these 10 materials, right? So I think that's really great process question that you asked, Raj, because what's the point of inventive exploration, right? How many of you used to be really dynamic as kindergartners, and then we're told, no, this way, solve this problem using this formula, and maybe you're feeling a little less creative. We want to take you back to creative.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, there's not always like a specific set way that you can always like assess everything. So I think that that's a really nice way to put it, that everybody, if they make new friends and learn something new, then that's kind of how you can assess the progress that they've made in Camp Invention.
Yeah, and I will tell you, it breaks my heart just a little bit that assessment is such a huge part of your lives, and that there is that pressure, because at the end of the day, the inventors and the real life people who have invented, you know, what goes in what made the digital camera small enough to take your selfies, right? So his name is Eric Fossum. He didn't just do that overnight. He had to, they took years to develop. So, you know, it's just that notion of keep trying the failure. And I know that school doesn't allow that, has more parameters around it than that. So keep pushing, be a disruptor, push the envelope a little bit.
We have a question from CSO Tyra. What is your favorite part of your job?
Moments like this. Simple. Just getting to
totally. What about meeting all the inventors? You get to meet all the cool.
Oh my gosh. Well, the inventors are really cool. Most of them are really cool people. They're like any group of people, right? So yeah, meeting the inventors. And you know what? They're everyday people. Like they listen to music and they go hiking and, you know, they go snowboarding. I mean, they are just everyday people. And so I think having that, being in that environment and realizing that, I think is, would be really good for you all to see as well, because it'll show you that they were just like you at one point in time.
That's a really interesting way to put it into perspective, that all of these great inventors, they're really just people just like us. It could be any of us could be the next person to come up with the next great invention. And as CSOs, we have a great opportunity to be exposed to opportunities like that.
Yes, that's true.
We have a question from CSO Mo. How would such a camp be able to be adapted for older students? And is it possible to create such a program?
Absolutely. So we do have a middle school program. Right now it's called Invention Project. And I will let you know that there are some great things on the horizon. We are working on a high school program. I can't share anything with you about it right now, but there's some really fun stuff, and you all are on my Frontlines radar. So anytime something new or something comes up that I think you all would be interested in, I shoot it right to your fearless leaders, and they will share it out to you.
That's so nice of you to think of including us in your projects, and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Let's see here.
I wanted to give you a little shout out with that little lead in too. Shawn contacted me and she kept pushing the envelope like, hey, Kelly, we're going to meet. And we actually had been talking maybe a year via email. And then we ran into each other at the conference in San Antonio this past, just March. And she introduced us to Radia Perlman, who helped invent the internet, right? And so A, that was amazing. B, she also was like, Kelly, we have to talk. I have so many ideas. And she kept pushing. And how incredible that she just mailed some kits to some of the CSOs I've reached out to make sure, oh, Gerard, what are you doing? To make sure that you guys have the opportunity to engage in the opportunities from the Inventors Hall of Fame. So it's pretty cool contact. So thanks, Shawn, for being our friend.
No, thank you for being mine too.
They totally want to meet Elon Musk. Is there a...
Oh my gosh, really? So, yeah. Is he an inductee? Has anybody done a search to see if he's actually an inductee in the Inventors Hall of Fame? I'm not going to tell you what I think, but you might want to go to invent.org. I'm going to drive you to the website. If you go to invent.org and look under inductees, there's a search function, and you can type in his name and see if he is. I don't believe.
Austin is doing it right now. I can see him typing.
He's barely moving his eyes. He's pretending he's not typing, but he is.
But you could see the change of the screen, the colors flash across his face. He's totally looking. All right, sorry. Haley, do you have any more questions, my dear?
So while we're in the process of figuring out whether Elon Musk is an inductee in the Inventors Hall of Fame, could you talk us through the process of what CSOs would need to do to start a Camp Invention in their district to bring it to their area?
Absolutely. So you will be receiving some information. Now is probably not the best time to start approaching your principals and administrators about this, but what I will be doing is kind of giving you a list of different administrator positions within a school district who we typically reach out to. What we don't want you to do is spend a lot of time sharing what Camp Invention and you feeling like you have to know every single detail, but we'll provide you with some printed information and some emails that would be easily shareable. And so if you have those conversations and you put it in your action plan and you do have some interest, I will want you to introduce me by email to that administrator. And then I would be happy to take it from there, but keeping you in the loop. And what I would love to do is a director has to be assigned to or kind of step up and take the role of an educator in the district, take the role of director, camp director, and then they in turn kind of take the ball and run with it with our support and help. Camp Invention is funded in two ways. So one's a traditional parent paid model, and then one is funded by the district or through grants. So there's a lot of different conversations that are at a level that we don't want you to really have to think about because there's a lot of discussion back and forth to figure out what the right game plan is for your school or district. So I guess the short answer is we'll provide you with some information so you can talk intelligently upfront about it. And then if you find the interest, you'll just kind of introduce them to me, keeping you in the loop the whole way through though.
Perfect. All right, we have one more question before we start to close it up. So this is a question from CSO Mo. Can Camp Invention work internationally?
So we are just starting our international. I will tell you that we are on some military bases, I believe in Germany. We're also in Canada. And then this isn't really considered international because it is a territory of the United States, but we are in Puerto Rico as well. So internationally, those would be conversations that we would have to have with our executive team. I don't see why, though, some of our kits that we've been developing for distance learning which is brand new for us too. So that's what I'm saying. There's so many, when the world changes the way it has so drastically, different things have to happen to accommodate the needs, as I'm sure you have all experienced. And so I think we might have an opportunity here to expand in that way. So you just actually gave me an idea, which I'm going to be sharing and disrupting internally about to see if we can't make some of those things happen. So see, right there, new idea.
Absolutely, because Mo is the guy to talk to in Kuwait because he already works at a kids camp, and how cool that he could get the administrators of the camp to buy off on Camp Invention curriculum and working on some sort of training and facilitation. He has some really nice contacts, so I love it.
Perfect.
Oh, and then yes, Chibeni, if we do it in Arizona at our CSO conference maybe next year, maybe we could do the CSO Camp Invention 2021 in Arizona. Let's disrupt together, Shawn. Let's do it.
We'll make something happen. Excuse me.
Sounds like we've already got some great ideas starting. So
Sure
final
does.
question. I know you already kind of answered this a little bit earlier, but
Excuse me.
what advice would you give to your 14-year-old self or to those of us right now in our position?
If it was my 14-year-old self, what I wish I could go back and say to her, and what I would say to all of you is keep your eyes open and really be aware of as many opportunities of pathways that you could take. So when I was your age, I did not have the internet was not even a thing. And I was not exposed to the types of opportunities that may have actually led me. I'm a very creative person, so I might have gone down a different path that was a little more in a creative realm. So I would say make sure that you are providing yourself with as much exposure to different ideas and things and pathways that you think you might want to have some interest in. And then be sure that you're open to taking some of that in too, because somebody might say, hey, you should try this. And you'll be like, no, I've already got it all figured out. Well, let me tell you, you ain't got to figure it out. You've got some time. Some of you may, but just be open because things will evolve and change and your interests will change.
I think that's some really great advice for all of us CSOs. Again, we thank you for joining us today, Shawn. We are excited about the collaboration you have started with Kelly and the CSOs and are truly thankful for the opportunity to connect with the National Inventors Hall of Fame. You are an inspiration to many of us, and we hope that you can participate in another call someday as we continue Zoom in on science.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share. You all are spectacular, and keep doing what you're doing.
CSOs, don't just hope it happens.
Make it happen.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. It was my pleasure to be able to host, and hopefully we will see you all sometime soon again on Zoom In on Science.
Excellent job, Haley. You're a fantastic host. Thank you, Shawn. That was incredible. Awesome. Well, thank you.